Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Paulymath Show. In this episode, I want to review this book. It's called Defy Gravity. It's by Caroline Myss. Now, this book came out a few months back, maybe 4, 5, 6 months ago, and it was sent to me by Hay House for review. So thank you, Hay House, for sending me this. When I got this book, I was actually, I wasn't really expecting them to send this book. I didn't know that they had sent it. And basically, the day before I received this book, I was thinking about certain things related to energy healing. And then the next day, I went to check my mail, got this box, opened it up, saw this book, picked it up, started reading it. And it was interesting because some of the things that she talks about in the very beginning part of this book are exactly the things that I was just thinking about and writing about in my journal the day before. So it's one of those books that came to me at the right, at the exact right time. So I dived into the book and read the first 3 or 4 chapters, and essentially what this book is about is it's about the process of going beyond reason in order to heal. So Caroline Myss talks about our current society's love affair with our reasoning center. She talks about how most of our consciousness and our human experience right now is happening right in our minds. It's all up here. We're all between our jaw and our top of our head. We're all stuck in our heads and in our reasoning centers. So we're basically missing a connection to our body, and we're missing our connection to our souls. And everything that happens in our lives right now, we always seek to find reasons for it. And the same thing happens when it comes to healing. When we have a health crisis or a financial crisis or a relationship crisis, any crisis of any kind that requires healing, we always default back to our reasoning center to look for answers. If we get sick, for example, we try to figure out what's the reason. Why did we get sick? What did we do wrong? What were we missing? And the idea behind that way of thinking is that if we could figure out what the reason is behind our sickness, then it would somehow help us heal. And what she talks about in this book is that a lot of times our reasoning center is exactly the reason why we're sick in the first place. And I'm not just talking about health-wise. It could be we could be financially sick, our relationships could be sick or suffering. We could experience healing crises in many different areas of our life. And because we live in our reasoning center, that could very well be the reason. That could be the reason behind the problem in the first place. So it's like we're trying to reason. We're trying to solve the problem with the same mind that created the problem in the first place. She dives into this a lot more in depth in this book, and it's a very interesting read. It's one of those books where it's not a book that I can pick up and read from cover to cover in one sitting. It's one of those books where I read 2 or 3 chapters, and there's a lot of good information in there that I have never, I haven't read in other books. And I have to actually put it down and pause and put it down for a while and kind of let that information absorb and percolate throughout my life and test it out and try to, see how it fits in with my life experiences. And then I kind of go back maybe a month later and go back and read a few more chapters, and then I kind of pause and go back. And some books just require that. I think some books were not meant to be read in one sitting or in a week or even in a month. I think some books were meant to be read over a longer period of time, and I think this is one of those books. At least it is for me. So a couple of examples that I would like to share with you guys of what I mean by going beyond reason to facilitate healing. So one example that I can give you guys from my personal life is a few years back, probably around 2001 or 2002, a friend of mine named Trevor Miller introduced me to a book called Power versus Force. And in that book, the author talks about the process of muscle testing. And when I first read this book, I'll be completely honest with you guys. As soon as I heard what muscle testing is and what it is, the first thing that popped into my mind, the reasoning center of my mind, engaged, and it just said, what a pile of crap. There's no way this muscle testing stuff works. I just didn't understand. I just couldn't fathom how it could possibly work. And I was very much against it. Any book that referenced muscle testing, I just kind of said, this is hogwash. There's no way that this stuff works. Until one day when I was going through my nutrition studies, and one of the authors that had written some of the books that we were studying in my nutrition courses was a naturopathic doctor here locally in the Lower Mainland. And I went to see him for an appointment, just more of a, I didn't really have anything wrong with me or anything like that, but I just wanted to go see him for more of a preventative type of maintenance and to talk to him a little bit about weight loss and stuff like that. But anyways, when I got there, I realized, I didn't know this before I went to see him, but when I got there, I found out that he uses muscle testing to diagnose patients, and to, in that appointment, we were using it to determine certain food allergies that I had. And when I found out that he was doing muscle testing, it just kind of, shocked me, because I'm like, I couldn't believe it, that, here it is again, there's this muscle testing thing, and there's no way this thing is real, it's got to be bogus. So I actually, in my mind, I was set and determined to prove to myself that there's no way this thing works. So when I was there and we were doing this testing, we were testing maybe, I can't remember, maybe 50, 100, maybe 150 different types of foods and spices. We were testing to see which foods my body has a potential allergy to. And we were using muscle testing to determine this. And while there, I was completely determined to prove to myself that there's no way this thing works. So, I mean, the process of muscle testing is that you hold out your arm. At least, there's many different ways of doing it, but one way is to hold out your arm, and the person, when we're doing the food allergy testing, I would hold up a vial with certain types of food in it or certain spices. I would hold it up to my solar plexus, and, the practitioner would push down on my arm. And the idea is that if my body wanted to signal that it did not want me to have this food or to stay away from this food at this point in my life, it would make my arm go weak. And to me, that just did not make any logical sense, that the body would somehow be able to do this. So I was determined to hold my arm out strong. Sure enough, we were doing, 50 different tests, and I grabbed one of, I was handed one of the vials which had whey protein in it. I didn't know that was whey protein, but it was just a vial. It was like one of these little mini Tupperware containers, and it had a little powder in it. I had no idea what it was. Held it up to my solar plexus. They pushed down on my arm, and my arm just, even before they pushed down on it, I just felt a shift, and my arm just went weak. And it completely, honestly, it completely blew my mind, because I was just like, what? I literally could not hold my arm up. It was just like, whoop, totally weak. Took the whey protein away, grabbed another vial, tested, I was super strong. And then just to kind of, get it in there to that it wasn't just a fluke or some kind of weird thing. Somewhere during that process, when we were testing all these different vials, they, and I couldn't see what was in them. Like, we would only basically, we were going through them super fast. Grab one, hold it up, grab the next one, hold it up, grab the next one, hold it up. At some point, they actually gave me the same whey protein powder vial, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was the same one. I couldn't see, because we weren't looking at them. We were just basically going one by one, and only if I tested weak to it, we would actually look at it and read the label and write it down. So I was handed the whey protein one again. I held it up. I didn't know it was whey protein. Once again, my arm just went totally weak. So at that time in my life, for some reason, my body wanted to signal them to say, hey, stay away from whey protein right now in this point in your life. That doesn't mean that I'm allergic to it forever or anything like that, but it just meant that my body did not want that. And it was able to signal using my arm, which boggled my mind. I remember driving home from that appointment that day, and my eyes were bugging out of my head. I was just driving, and it was just silence. I had the radio off, and I was by myself in the car, and the whole way home, I was just quiet, and my mind was completely blown, because all the things that, I read about muscle testing before, and I was, hogwash, there's no way this stuff works. Now all of a sudden I had to go back, and kind of the experience that I had defied logic. It defied my reasoning center and understanding of how things work at that point in time. So I had to go back and kind of rethink everything that all the assumptions that I made since that, day when I said muscle testing is crap. So that was kind of one of these examples of going beyond reason, where I experienced something that cannot be explained, or that my mind couldn't explain to me how it could possibly work. That doesn't mean that science can't explain it. It doesn't mean that one day we won't understand how all these things work. It just means that at that point in my life, with my education, my understanding, and my logical sense, I couldn't understand how it could work. So I had to go beyond reason, because my life experience showed me that what I considered reasonable was not reasonable. It made no sense, because how could it happen? I mean, if muscle testing can't work, then how did it just work? And I've tested it since then many different times, and it's worked every single time. So to me, muscle testing is a no-brainer. It makes total sense. But I know many people don't believe in it, and many people who haven't tested themselves or haven't, worked with a practitioner that can do it, to them, if you just tell them about it, or if they read about it in a book, they're like, there's no way, this stuff is crap. And I totally understand that, because I was the exact same way before I experienced it. Same thing with, psychic readings. I had the same experience with psychic readings. It made no sense to me. I wasn't actually, for some weird reason, I was actually more skeptical of muscle testing than I was of psychic abilities. I don't know why. I've always kind of had this belief that intuitive abilities, psychic abilities, do exist. I just didn't necessarily believe any of the psychics that I saw on TV or any of those people. But anyways, there's been a few instances in my life where, such as when I went to my Reiki classes, and when I played with a little bit of matrix energetics with my friend Chris in New Brunswick, there's a few instances where I've had to go and let go of reason and just experience things that don't fit in with my logical center. And that's basically what she talks about in this book, is this process of learning to let go of reason, so that you can allow healing to come in and take place in your life, in your body, in your soul, without having to explain how it's happening or why it's happening. Because it's really, honestly, doesn't really matter. If you have some form of illness, some terminal illness or whatever, the top priority should be to heal yourself of that, not to understand and to reasonably be able to explain how you could heal yourself. I think that if you're looking for healing in your life, financial healing, relationship healing, health healing, whatever it is, go and seek healing, but don't let reason stop you. Like, don't only allow the types of healings out there that have a reasonable explanation or scientific explanation. There's so many different ways that you can experience healing that haven't necessarily been proven in a laboratory yet, but they do work. And that's basically what she talks about here, is instances. She's been in the field of healing and energy healing for a few decades, I believe, and she's seen some pretty interesting stuff. She's seen some pretty miraculous healings, and she talks about that in this book, and gives you kind of a roadmap and a process of being able to let go of the reasoning center in your mind and go beyond reason when it comes to the process of healing. So if that sounds like something that would resonate with you, I definitely encourage you to pick up this book and give it a good read. All right, so that's it for this episode, and I'll see you guys in the next one.